Will Matt Reeves' Batman epic crime saga be joining the DCU? Maybe. Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is the place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. Now, it's kind of Superman's moment. Trailer for James Gunn's Superman movie just dropped, reaching over 250 million views in 24 hours, which is insane. It's the biggest trailer in Warner Brothers history, DC Studios history, even beating Batman, who we all know pays the bills at DC and is the biggest DC character ever. There is no conversation about it, no argument to be had. I'll just move on. But with that, a lot of people have been speculating about what the DCU's Batman would look like. Creature Commandos Episode 4 showed us a glimpse where Batman is dead alongside Wonder Woman and Superman, and we got a little look at it. Now, James Gunn has said that these peaks are not what exactly the characters will look like in the DCU, but that has got people speculating as to what he will look like. And also, I think people have seen what David Corenswet's Superman looks like as Clark Kent, and they're already in love with him. And that love has turned into speculation that Robert Pattinson's Batman is the Batman in the DCU. Now, fans tend to do this, I think, when people see things, and especially in a world of the multiverse and all of that, people always are going to make those assumptions, put out tweets, threads, posts that get tons of likes of being like, man, I can't wait to see these two interact. And I think it is a great idea. And James Gunn himself has said that that is something that was considered.
Have you contemplated, have you had the conversation, have you reconsidered integrating Pattinson's Batman into your DCU?
I've contemplated it. Yeah, we've contemplated it. You gotta contemplate everything, John. We gotta talk about everything.
And now that we're sort of deeper into the DCU and we know what that first movie looks like with Superman, with that trailer, I think there is a place for Matt Reeves' Batman appearing in this DCU. Now, that world is very grounded, and Gotham is a hellscape that probably would need more than a Superman or Batman or Justice League to save it. So it does make sense that it's on its own corner, but I tend to think that the DC universe currently is just like that as well. Like, Batman exists alongside Superman, and that is not a crazy concept that comic book fans cannot comprehend. Now, I do think that James Gunn really values Matt Reeves' vision. The Penguin was DC Studios' first big hit critically and commercially. They're already talking about a season 2. And I think Matt Reeves' work with the Batman universe overall, with the Cape Crusader. He's also a producer on Dynamic Duo, the Robins movie coming out. He is a producer on the upcoming Clayface, which I think people thought was going to be set in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, but James Gunn has said that is in the DCU. That is why he's not worried about releasing that movie about a month before the Batman 2. Now, how does Batman fit into this current DCU? Particularly Robert Pattinson's Batman. I think if he were to be in this DCU, it makes sense to me because the way Matt Reeves is writing at this point, by the time Batman 2 comes out, it would have been 4 years since the Batman. And I'd imagine that when he gets to eventually the Batman 3, there will be another 4 to 5 years between that. And at that point, Robert Pattinson will probably be at the age where he could have a teenage son. Which would make him the perfect candidate for The Brave and the Bold. And Andy Muschietti is directing The Brave and the Bold. He was one of the first directors announced for this new DCU, and obviously when you're announcing a cinematic universe around DC, you have to announce a Batman project. So I think they really jumped the gun on that. There is no script that James Gunn really loves at this point, and I think The Flash really derailed what that movie was in terms of the momentum. Andy was getting a lot of positive buzz from CinemaCon about The Flash. Then it came out. Fans rejected it. It was a critical and commercial flop. And I think because of the response to that, I wonder if they're sort of reassessing what they want to do with Batman Brave and the Bold. And I do think, just based on interviews, Robert Pattinson is a big Batman fan.
And it was one of those things, too, that was weirdly fated because then it turned out that he was, which I had no idea, obsessed with Batman.
And I think he would love the opportunity to be able to play in the world with Superman, Wonder Woman, and other DC characters. As much as he loves being the center of the Batman crime saga, I think he does yearn for that, because the reality is he didn't even need to really do the Batman. He could have found that in other blockbusters. He was in Tenet. He's in Christopher Nolan's next movie. So I do think he's a huge comic book fan and would love the opportunity to be alongside Batman. And I mean Superman. And fans, after BVS and sort of the DCU's interpretation of that relationship, I think people yearn for a world's finest type relationship where Batman and Superman are friends, best friends. And one of my favorite comic books of the last few years, in terms of runs, is Mark Waid and Dan Mora's World's Finest. It's a fantastic Silver Age type story where you're kind of looking at past adventures of Batman and Superman. And I think that would be the perfect kind of setting for what a DCU with Robert Pattinson's Batman would look like. James Gunn has already said that Superman, what sort of differentiates it from previous iterations of Superman on the big screen, is that there's a lot of that science fiction and Silver Age color to it. And I think if you add Batman to it, that's how you would approach it and also differentiate it from what Matt Reeves is doing. Now, I'm sure Matt Reeves, again, is resistant to the idea of folding his corner of DC into the larger DCU, but I do think he's also a big fan of comic books, and that is why he is sort of turned his whole career into making Batman projects. He's kind of the CEO of Batman, where he has the Batman crime saga, and he is a producer on all these Batman projects, including Clayface and dynamic duos, which I think has sort of made it confusing, and I think it's made it easy for fans to speculate that Robert Pattinson would be the Batman. And again, because of the lack of momentum that Batman Brave and the Bold has had, you know, by now you would think they'd be casting or having conversations with actors about potentially being the Batman of this universe. So the fact that it's been quiet makes you wonder, and also some speculation from certain reporters. Robert Pattinson is the person that they're eyeing, and that they're maybe trying to figure out a way to properly integrate him into the DCU. And I think it is the right move. For me, as much as I think Batman could support multiple iterations and has in the past, it's a character that can bear that burden. I think it is something that would dilute the brand overall of Batman to have those multiple iterations, and just would have fans constantly going back and forth. Like, the DCU is over, and you already have people comparing David Corenswet to Henry Cavill. If you had Robert Pattinson and potentially other Batman like going at the same time, you have people going not my Batman, and you know, there would be people picking sides because that's what fandom is. And, you know, there is a level of that now, and it could be super toxic and I think not really helpful or conducive to building a larger DCU brand. And I think those Elseworld stories should really be reserved for things like Clayface that are maybe not huge budget films, but something where it's like, hey, this is a really good idea. We got a fantastic filmmaker in Mike Flanagan that has a really good take, and let's make it. You know, he's got a great script. It's not going to cost too much. So if it's a failure, it's not on the level of a Joker Folie à Deux. It's something that builds the brand and allows people to come into DC knowing that there is a wealth of storytelling and different perspectives that they can offer. But yeah, overall, I think I would love to see Robert Pattinson's Batman alongside David Corenswet's Superman. It's something I would love. BVS, as much as I like the Ultimate Cut, I think there was a lot left. And I think people, you know, in opening weekend, people showed up big time for that movie. But, you know, we want less of Batman versus Superman and more of Batman and Superman World's Finest. And I think that would be the perfect take. I do think they need to give Matt Reeves the space to tell his epic crime saga, because that has been clearly successful with the Batman, the Penguin, potentially a Penguin season 2. And everyone's excited for the Batman too. So I think they need to let him cook a little bit, but also I understand sort of why us as fans and also James Gunn will potentially want Robert Pattinson in that larger DCU just because he has such a fantastic presence. And it would be cool, like, Robert Pattinson is amazing at doing these wild, wacky accents and giving wildly different performances. It would be hilarious if he just was giving like two radically different performances as Batman, Bruce Wayne in the two universes. So for me, I think it would be interesting. But what do you think? Would you like to see Robert Pattinson's Batman in the larger DCU? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, and peace.